Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo here for WagerTalk TV, and we've got another edition of Marco's Deli. And the deli has been rolling, guys, after going 3-2 on last week's show. That's now 8 winning weeks, only 2 losing weeks, and 1 break-even week, and a record of 35-19 on the season. Let's get right to this week's show. I want to thank all you guys that have been giving us those thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Hope you do that again this week for us. All right, let's get started with the first game, and we're going to take a look at Baylor at Arizona. Baylor's getting 7 points here, and Baylor has been their own worst enemy, losing 3 of their last 4 games. But it must be noted that in those 4 games, they committed 9 turnovers. And in those 4 games, the 3 losses, well, they were on the wrong side of an 8-1 turnover margin. 2 of the losses were against Cincinnati and Utah, 2 of the better teams in the Big 12. Arizona's not one of the better teams. In fact, even though they have a better record at 7-3, it was done playing a much softer schedule. 4 of those 7 wins this year were against Hawaii, Weber State, Oklahoma State, and Colorado. That's not exactly murderer's row. They are coming off an upset win at Cincinnati last week. So now they go from being a dog and winning outright to being a favorite. You know I don't like that situation for the favorite. I like to take the underdog in those situations. And given the fact that they are already bowl eligible and they've got their biggest rival on deck next week, a team, Arizona State, their in-state rival, who happened to beat them 49-7 last year. Yeah, this is an absolute great spot for Baylor here, who actually needs 1 more win to become bowl eligible. I'll go ahead and take Baylor plus the 7 here for play number 1. Play number 2. We're going to take a look at Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. Now, if you remember last week, we went against Coastal Carolina because they had this game on deck against in-state rival South Carolina. We felt it was a bad spot for them, and we thought they would get caught looking ahead. Well, we cashed that ticket with Georgia Southern. Now this week, it's Coastal Carolina who is catching an opponent in a sandwich spot. South Carolina is in an absolute horrible spot. Not only are they in a huge sandwich as they played Texas A&M last week, but they've got in-state rival Clemson on deck. And how does South Carolina pick themselves up from last week's loss? Remember, they played Texas A&M. They led 30-3 at halftime against Texas A&M, and they ended up losing 31-30. How does a team get excited after that kind of loss? This is the classic lose the same game twice. And being that they're 3-7 and eliminated from going to a bowl game, I just don't see them showing up here. Yeah, they're going to win the game, but I don't see them winning in a blowout. They're going to have an eye on next week. Laying 24 points here, I can't do it. And you always hear me talk about little brother, big brother matchups. Well, that's what this one is both teams coming out of South Carolina. I'm going to look for little brother to give big brother a little bit of a scare. Let's grab Coastal Carolina plus the 24 as play number 2. Play number 3, guys, TCU at Houston. Putting this one in a trap category is you have Houston, who is ranked in the top 25 versus an unranked team, and they're playing at home. And the line is only -1.5 for Houston. Just pick the winner. To me, this line smells. It's like they're begging you to take Houston. TCU got trounced last week by BYU, 44-13. But BYU is a team that's big and physical. That was able to push TCU all around the field. Houston's not that kind of team. This is also an in-state rivalry game, and TCU would love nothing better than to end Houston's hopes of getting into the Big 12 championship game by upsetting the Houston Cougars. Remember, right now, Houston's in 3rd place in the Big 12. They still have a shot at getting into that championship game, So you add the fact that this is a must-win game for Houston, and yet the line is only 1.5. Not falling for this trap. I am taking TCU plus the 1.5. They win this one. All right, guys, before we get to those last two games here on the deli, a little bit of business to take care of. I want to remind you that we have that Weekend Warrior package going at WagerTalk that's available to all handicappers. You can pick up Saturday and Sunday all college and pro football for $49. And don't forget, if we have a play on Monday Night Football, you get that play as well as a free bonus. Just $49 for that, and it would include a 5% play. And I do have another 5% play going this week. After last week's big winner with Seattle, we are now 37-16 since February of 2024 with these 5% plays. And my 4% and higher plays in college football, now 18-6. You can join me on the Weekend Warrior, or if you want an even better deal, how about all of my football plays, college and pro, all the way through the Super Bowl? Next week is Thanksgiving. You'll have action from Thursday through Monday. And of course, once the bowls start, you'll have action almost every day as well. So jump on board. We're 32-17 over the last 3 weeks with all of our plays, netting our clients over $3,900 of profit. And guys, one last time, if you like the video, do me a favor, give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Drop us a comment in the comment section. I love hearing where you guys are watching from. Tell me what you like, if you agree with these games, who you like this week, and tell me if you got a question. I always pop in and try to answer all the questions each week. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. All right, enough about the business end of it. Let's get on to the final two plays. And let's start with Washington at UCLA. It's been a lost season for UCLA. They lost their first 4 games of the season, pretty much ending their season, had the coach fired, and they did pull off one of the biggest upsets, not only of this year, but of the last decade or so, when as a 24.5-point underdog, they did beat Penn State. But after that, not much more. And if you remember when they did beat Penn State, they caught Penn State at the perfect time. Penn State was coming off that gut-wrenching overtime loss to Oregon the week before. Then Penn State had to travel across the country to play in the Rose Bowl against UCLA. It was a horrible spot for Penn State. They came out flat as a pancake, and UCLA took advantage of it. That was the perfect lose the same game twice situation. But since then, not much to brag about here for UCLA. This is a team that's just waiting for the season to end. If they're going to show up for a game, well, it's going to be next week because they play their arch rival, USC. And talk about a sandwich spot. They played Ohio State last week and USC next week. Yeah, this is a dead spot on the schedule for them. I like Washington in this spot. I think Washington manhandles them in this one. I'll go ahead, take Washington minus the 10.5 as they roll big on Saturday against UCLA. And guys, let's go to the NFL for our final play. These NFL plays, 9-2 this year, giving you one NFL play per week. This week, we're going to take a look at Tampa Bay at the LA Rams. In this one, we're going to classify as fat and sassy alert in LA this week. The Rams are coming off back-to-back monster games. 2 weeks ago, they had a big revenge game against San Francisco. If you remember earlier this season on a Thursday night when the 49ers were decimated with injuries, the 49ers went in there on national TV and upset the Rams. So that was a big revenge game for the Rams, and they got the job done. Then last week, an even bigger game because Seattle came to town. Seattle was tied with them for first place, but they took care of business and beat Seattle, and now they have sole possession of first place. That was a very satisfying 2 weeks for the Rams. I think this is a dangerous spot for them coming off of those 2 games. But if you go back and look at that Rams win last week, 21-19 over Seattle. Remember, we had a 5% play on Seattle last week. We got the cover, but that's a very misleading final score because Seattle actually dominated that game. The Rams were actually lucky to win that game as Seattle had a 414 to 249 edge in yardage. And that included the fact that Seattle gave the ball away 4 times in that game. Sam Darnold had his worst game of the season, throwing for 4 interceptions. You give away 4 possessions and you still have a yardage edge of 414 to 249. Yeah, the Rams were pretty lucky in that one. Tampa, on the other side of the coin, went to Buffalo last week and lost 44-32. Now, if you look at that score, you think, hey, they lost by double digits. But really, that was a tight game. They went back and forth with several lead changes well into the third quarter before Buffalo capitalized on a couple mistakes and big plays, and they pulled away for the double-digit win. If you got to also factor in, it was a bad spot for Tampa. You have a warm weather team going to play in Buffalo in late November, mid-November, I should say. That's never fun either. So everything was rolling against Tampa, and Buffalo was coming off an embarrassing loss the week before at Miami. It was the perfect storm for Buffalo, and they got the job done. You won't have weather conditions this week for Tampa because they're heading out west for a warm weather game. And we're getting that fat and sassy LA Ram team. I think this is a great spot for Tampa Bay. I'm going to grab the 6.5 points. I think this one goes right down to the wire. And I think Baker Mayfield can pull off the upset with Tampa Bay. This is a team that can score points. They've scored 23 or more points in 8 of their 10 games this year. Let's go ahead and take Tampa for the final game here on Marco's Deli. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it each and every week. I'll look forward to seeing you guys next week with Marco's Deli. Until next week, good luck and let's cash some tickets. I'll see you next week.